The identity of the Redditor who tipped Matty off to the biggest mystery in Matlock was never questioned before, but its answer has huge implications. While explaining to Bitsy, one of the more recently introduced among Matlock's cast of characters, Matty explains how the central mystery of the Matlock reboot was introduced to her and Edwin through an anonymous Redditor. They've never seemed to question this Redditor's identity before, but that changed drastically when Matty and Edwin used a phishing scam to track the Redditor's IP address. In Matlock episode 15, Game Face, they learn that the Redditor who goes by the name Read M and Weep 31 was accessing the site through Jacobson Moore's own network. While there's no telling as of yet whether the primary mystery will be resolved ahead of Matlock Season 2, this new information presents a whole new mystery just episodes away from the end of Season 1. And, while some viewers might have expected this new mystery to play out a bit longer, Episode 15 actually gave us an answer at the very end. Matlock Episode 15 reveals Mrs. B is Madeline's Wellbrexa source. The Redditor was hiding in plain sight all along. Even when Matlock showrunner Jenny Snyder-Urman said to expect twists in the second half of the season, most viewers likely wouldn't have guessed that one of the biggest twists is the importance of sidelined character Mrs. Belvin to the show's overarching mystery. After learning that the Redditor who tipped her off to who hid Wellbrexa's documents was posting from within Jacobson Moore, there was still no indication that it would be someone so unassuming. Belvin's username turned out to be the biggest clue. Because Mrs. BS dog is named Barry Manilow, Matty figures out that the Redditor's username is based on the title of one of Manilow's songs, Read M and Weep. Having learned about subliminal advertising from Olympia's slammed case, Matty then composes a message using Manilow's song lyrics from Can't Smile Without You to lure Mrs. B out into the open. Not only that, but she also uses some other very specific context clues from episode 15 to cement her belief that Mrs. B is the one who ignited Madeline's revenge plan in Matlock. Why Mrs. B decides to leak the documents in Matlock? Belvin has always cared about not breaking rules. Patricia Belcher as Belvin aka Mrs. B in Matlock. While Matlock's ratings success definitely lends itself at least partly to the series' creative twists, there's also something to be said for the show's unending willingness to investigate its own moral center. Mrs. Belvin exemplifies Matlock's moral center more than nearly any other character, showing non-stop dedication to maintaining the rules. Even when it comes to something as simple as Julian using his authority to steal an office from Sarah and give it to Simone with no questions asked, Belvin cares enough to want justice. Matty's deceptive use of Barry Manilow's lyrics might be why Belvin initially caves on her original position not to out herself as the Redditor, but those same lyrics also show that Mrs. B feels for those who have experienced the pain of loss. Barry Manilow the dog may be past most of his medical issues, but it seems that Belvin may have other personal reasons for caring so deeply about the Wellbrexa case. Her dedication to the rule of law might be what tipped Matty off, but it's likely we'll be learning more about Belvin's backstory before long. How Mrs. BS involvement changes the game for Madeline's revenge plot. She can access information that Matty probably can't. Kathy Bates as Matty Kingston in Matlock. One of Matty's main reasons for assuming Olympia was Matlock's primary villain was simply the fact that tracing the Wellbrexa documents movements led back to her old office. Now that Mrs. B is suspicious of why Julian wants Olympia's old office so badly, it could lead to a major break in the case that frees Olympia from suspicion. Since it seems Jacobson Moore never shredded the document, when they objectively probably should have, there's a chance the document could be hidden anywhere in the firm. Belvin can use her authority as head of archives and unknowing presence as a side character to get closer to that truth. And while this seemingly relies on Belvin and Matty comparing notes on the Wellbrexa case, Matty has proven numerous times in Matlock that she has ways of getting things done while still hiding just outside of sight. Now that she knows who to trust most, she can start using that connection to figure out who she ought to trust least.